Good morrow, fellow humans. My name is Sean and I am obsessed with infinity. So join me as I attempt to untangle the infinities of what is.
I'm sure we've all seen that same video, where the camera pulls away from the erupting surface of a yellowy-orange star, tracking up and out as planets whiz past like telegraph poles, on through a flash of asteroids before a rainbow of planetary giants launch themselves into the distance as if hit for six by God himself, until finally the imagery catapults us through a rain of neighbouring stars out into a bird's eye view of a galactic spiral that lay strewn against an endless smattering of sparkling cosmic fidgets. It's the sort of sequence one becomes accustomed to when indulging in a steady diet of pop science videos. But as big and beautiful as these high-res renders can be, they can actually harbour a hidden injustice, especially when considering that they offer next to zero factual information. The relative scale of planets and their shared distances all tend to be judged purely by the artist's eye. Not to mention that for such a sequence to be captured on film, the camera would have been travelling at many times the speed of light, which, might make the task of capturing such imagery, just a tad difficult. But nowadays, we're all reasonably happy to forgive a certain amount of poetic license, accustomed as we are to the impossibilities given in the name of entertainment. But the troubling aspect of these sequences is not so much found in their wild inaccuracies, more in a subtle act of desensitization that quietly denies us the most vital element of having these big ideas. What we have been robbed of is the emotion attained when imagining the unimaginable. Subdued, we have collectively forgotten how one should dance with infinities that lay drenched in the giddy head rush of vertigo, and tend now to absorb them in a numbed, almost matter-of-fact fashion, skipping them past our mind's eye as quickly as any technicolored 3D galactic roller coaster. So, when visualising the various ideas in this series, I'm again going to make the humble request that you take that little extra moment to sit with a thought, because whenever we as individuals do so choose to take on that added moment of attentive visualisation and reflection, what we find is that waiting for us just below the surface is the distinct quality of being pushed beyond the boundaries of our comprehension. So let's see how far we can go. Let's just see how long each of us can hold out in our attempt at coercing this mind-boggling perspective into our modest movies of the mind. Are we ready? Firstly, imagine that you could take your car and drive it in a straight line at 100 kilometers per hour without stopping, ongoing and uninterrupted, conquering the full equator of the Earth as you round back upon where you first began. At this speed, it would take you just on 17 days to complete the entire round trip. But don't stop there. Keep building the image in your mind. Imagine sitting there Monday to Sunday, day and night, twice over, and half again, the world passing beneath your feet at the speed of the average motor freeway. This 2.5 week long journey, this is the size of our precious blue-green dot. It's not so easy to do, is it? But trudge on we must. So now, sitting high above our car, towing a line between falling in and falling away, we find ourselves inside the International Space Station, no longer passing over a minuscule 100 kilometres for every hour, but in freefall, travelling over 7 kilometres every second, passing over the same 100 kilometres in less than 15 seconds. We're now moving so fast that it takes us a mere 93 minutes to complete our first orbit, lapping our non-stop driver more than 260 times before reaching their journey's end. But why stop here? Why not travel as fast as universally possible, surfing a crest of an invisible electromagnetic wave, traversing the open regions of space at speeds reaching towards 299,792 kilometres per second, the speed of light. As we build towards these speeds, we now begin to lap the Earth's equatorial loop 7.5 times every single second. Count them. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. It's about 1.5 laps of the Earth for each syllable of the word Mississippi. Now, whilst trying to hold this image in our mind's eye, let's continue to widen the scope, aiming now for a point upon the horizon approximately 32 Earths away, and a massive 160-day night stayover in our non-stop car. A convoy which, if we began it in the early days of the new year, it would only come to its end sometime in the first week of June. So picture that, sitting in your car with the Earth slowly retreating in your rearview mirror for more than 5 enduring months, time enough for the isolation madness to start kicking in, and all the while as you make your way across that one large step, the spherical beacon of the moon looms ever larger against the star-pitted sky. But what if we again shift our perspective in the hope that we might be able to hold on to the mental image just that little bit longer? Now I want you to visualise the enormity of the Earth and Moon's affinity by witnessing it from a bird's eye perspective, where the Earth now appears relative to our vantage point as equal to the size of an ordinary grape, and the Moon, now the size of a pea, circles that Earth once every month at the relative distance of 40 centimetres or 16 inches, or whilst an indiscernible microscopic car travels slowly across the void, completing 1 centimetre every 4 days. So don't be fooled. Just to say that this is a really long way is a fairly seismic understatement. But as large as it is, when riding upon our wave of light, this once seemingly endless stay in confinement now has the ability to spark in and out of existence in a mere moment, crossing the entire chasm in a brief 1.28 seconds. That's the Earth to the Moon in 1 Mississippi, 2. All good so far? Alright, let's keep driving. From here on, if our cabin-fevered travellers were determined enough to try and make it as far as the sun, they would at some point be forced to participate in the obligatory passing down of the journey's torch, as well as the passing on of genes, as the wastelands of this vast desert crossing would offer very little respite within 2, 3, most likely 4 generations, arriving at its final destination not before seeing out a lengthy 177 years. So up to you whether you wish to play that little video in your head or not. From the vantage of our bird's eye view, we can now imagine this nearly 2-century-long trek as being the equivalent distance of 1.5 football fields in length, separating the sun from our fragile grape-pea duo. A clearly ludicrous distance already, but when riding upon the universal speed limit, our indelible light wave has the ability to close this gap in a meagre 8 minutes and 12 seconds, which if you're happy just to sit out the next 8-ish minutes, I think you would have little trouble in appreciating the immensity of this abyss, a distance that's referred to as 1 astronomical unit, or AU for short. From the Sun, Jupiter is over 5 times this distance, at 5.2 AU away, and Neptune is a whopping 30 AU away, the equivalent of a 5,320-year-long drive. But of course, the Sun's influence doesn't stop at the outer planets. So far as we can see, the influence is still present between 100 and 200,000 AU, past the edge of a cloud of water ice particles that we call the Oort cloud. It's a place so distant that even our coma of light waves won't arrive before a tedious 3-year journey. So what does this mean for our generations of backpacking road trippers? Well, for them, this means that if we were to drive this distance uninterrupted, day and night, at our strict 100 kilometers per hour, they would have needed to have left the Earth sometime during the Eocene epoch, approximately 35 million years ago, when our ancestors had yet to even leave the safety of the trees. So welcome to our tiny little solar system, a few specks upon a dot. Our nearest celestial neighbour, Proxima Centauri, it's not too much further on, just a mere 1.24 light years further than that previous 3 light year marker of the Sun's influence. This taking our total years driving figure up to a casual 49,100,000 years, just peanuts really. But as you can see, we're now getting into those numbers which, due to their immensity, simply become too abstract for the mind to fathom. So let's ditch the car at the side of the old space road and get back to our good old grain of sand analogy. Now, if the Earth was no longer a grape, but the size of a grain of sand, the Sun would be about the size of a beach ball, taking approximately 1.3 million Earths to fill the Sun. So are we having fun yet? Okay, so let's now take the Sun and make it the size of a grain of sand. At this scale, Proxima Centauri is now 1,572 kilometres away, the equivalent of driving direct from Melbourne to Brisbane. So that's 1 grain of sand, sipping coffee under the grey skies of Melbourne, whilst another soaks in the sun on the beaches of Brisbane with absolutely nothing in between. So sorry about that, New South Wales. And the Milky Way galaxy? The galaxy which contains our Sun, Proxima Centauri, and another 100 to 400 billion stars? This majestic vortex of light is at this scale approximately 60% the size of the actual Sun. And still the story grows. Because if we were to imagine the entire Milky Way galaxy as being the size of a single grain of sand itself, then the entire observable universe would be approximately 1 kilometre cubed, side to side, top to bottom, and it would contain at least 2 trillion grains of sand, each a galaxy and each containing more stars and planets than there are grains of sand on all the beaches in all the world. Imagine shooting 2 trillion grains of sand into the sky across a 1 by 1 kilometre cube and then taking a snapshot. This is the universe as we see it, all floating carelessly above a cheery 10 or so minute walk. So, have you given up yet?
Thank you for watching. You guys are amazing. Do the usual internet things. Love to have you here. Love to hear your thoughts. I'm filming this before I've even put up the first episode. It's still October for me. You're currently sometime in November, maybe even later. I don't know. We're getting close to Christmas, apparently. I'm still not organised. But we'll continue to do this investigation into scale for the rest of this month. And start to talk about the metaphysics of how scale and infinity play into one another. The important thing to tell you is that the podcast, the full version of the podcast, is now up. And here's the fancy artwork. Isn't that pretty? So look for that. Look for us under Infinite Now with Sean Crowley. And yeah, I won't take up any more of your time. See you next week.